So I know I said that I would upload another episode tonight, so that's what I'm doing. I spent some time promoting the podcast on Instagram, which was super good. Follow it at Yield to Do If Down Podcast. And with that self promo out of the way, I want to talk about change and just some changes that are happening in my life. This is a time of transition. There's a lot of pondering. I would consider this a ponderous time of my life, but there's a lot of changes, and I've made a pretty good amount of changes as I've been in college, but this is the time to make a ton of changes at once in a short period of time, and it's uncomfortable. It's painful, but the last couple weeks, like getting a girlfriend, which came out of nowhere, and just building a ton of stuff in Excel, it's been really tough. And, I've also had some like feelings of like I need to let go of some other stuff that may have helped me in the past with previous identities like video game content creator. But it's like I am much more than anything I've ever done in my life, you know? And it makes me think of something that Bella told me. She's amazing. I didn't mean to gush about her so much, but I've just become more and more fond of her, so I'm sorry. And just like, I don't know, she makes me smile. I don't know. But something she told me that really hit home after a treehouse talk we went to together, she told me, Dallin, you're amazing. And even if you weren't doing your podcast, even if you weren't doing any of this stuff, we would all still love you. And that's just really powerful to me because, even though I'm making all these changes in my life, the person, me, hasn't changed really. Like who I am and who I can become, that hasn't changed. I'm still myself. It's a really wonderful thought to think about. But, you know, there's also little tiny changes that are happening in my life right now. Just trying to be there more for Bella because now we're in a relationship, and also just finish the podcast on a high note. There's these tiny little changes I'm making, and they're gonna lead to something wonderful. Like I went on a run at like 10 p.m. last night, and I'm running the podcast still. I'm grinding it out. I'm going after it. I'm gonna wake up early for a class and do it again. It's like this is amazing though, because I haven't had like that love or just felt enough love or whatever to actually do this. But you shouldn't want to just feel before you do. But yeah, I don't know. Changes is such a powerful thing. And whatever you're going through right now, I'd recommend just making some tiny little changes there's gonna because there's good things coming, and you need to be like ready for them. There's a lot of amazing blessings that are flying in my way right now. But bro, I wasn't ready for this. Like I've been trying to be ready, and I always want to be ready for whatever God wants me to do. But I've underestimated Him a lot recently. I've just been like, oh yeah, I'm just kind of in this hole. But that's what God does, is He helps us get out of holes, and He helps us change how we see our circumstances. There's that really cool quote that like God doesn't take people out of the slums. He takes the slums out of the people. And they take themselves out of the slums. And that's something I've really seen recently. I just feel like God has been taking a lot of things out of me, and I've taken myself out of those situations or those thought patterns or other things. And it really is so simple. I think I've really tried to like play the game on my own without God's help, and making that small change of like including him a lot more has been super game changing, honestly. And it's a little crazy because I totally do need his help, and I know that. But some reason I thought I needed to, fight this battle, some of these battles on my own. And I don't have to fight any battles on my own. So changing how I see that has been really good, changing that perspective and just making tiny little changes and reminding myself that I'm worthy of change. I am ready to change. I'm able to change. But there's also parts of me that I just need to focus on developing and growing. Like, although the podcast is not in this amazing spot, I don't feel a need to change the topic of it to sports or something like that. Sometimes you just have to trust and hang on for the ride for the time being. You have to trust the destination that you're heading to. It's just kind of insane, though, just how amazing the ability to change is. There's that quote that says that there's the one guy who's like, yo, you shouldn't trust that guy because, men don't change their spots and leopards don't change their spots. And the guy's like, well, you should know that I don't work with leopards. I work with men, and men change every day. And I'm sure I've quoted that on the podcast before, but it's such a hype quote. I hope this gets you excited to change. And some changes, they're not welcome. They just sort of happen. And you're like, oh, now I have to get a bank account. Now I have to do this other stuff. But then there's changes that you can prepare for in advance, and it's going to set you up so well. It's so nice when you get the well dug or whatever before it's even a real thing. Like, it's interesting. I've been thinking about this podcast and how I'm going to have over 200 episodes by the time I graduate. And it's like, wow, I really have committed to this and I've stuck with this. And this is something I'm going to take with me after college, even though if it's not in this amazing spot. I mean, it has grown. It has grown, and I've grown. I think that's a little bit more important, at least to a certain degree. Of course, I wanted to help other people and help them make mental changes or just mindset changes and whatever, and just help them grow and whatever. But it's making such an impact on me, and that's going to affect what I do next. It's going to change how I see things. And I think another big just change I've been making is like telling myself, like, bro, it's okay. There's these people that like it was cool to like follow them and think they were cool, but like it's at that point I'm not gonna get them on my podcast probably, and if I do, they probably should just reach out to me. And so like, I mean, there's those people that I really want on, and then there's people that I kind of wanted on, and I just need to focus on the people that I really want, in my life. And I think Bella's really helped me learn that too. She's very like careful about who she has in her life, and she's just so giving and everything. And I mean, I'm super giving and stuff too, but sometimes I'm a little bit less like cautious about who's in my circle. So I don't know. Just an interesting thought. Just you got to be aware of who's helping your vibe grow, who's helping you grow, who's helping the campfire grow. Like if the campfire is dying, like why would you have somebody who's not going to add fuel to the fire? I don't know. I mean, obviously you need to reach out to people and help people, but I don't know. I've just been making some tiny little changes in like who I associate with, who I trust to help me out on my journey, more trusting God more, and not just for little stuff, but for these things like the podcast and stuff, and trusting that He wants us to grow. He wants to help me grow through it because that's what He did with the YouTube channel and all this other stuff I've done already. And just growing in the tiny little habits. Those are some of the big changes I've been making recently, and it's made a difference. Made a difference. So I'd encourage you to make some changes, whatever they need to be. Make some changes now that are going to serve you well in the future. I'm honestly just looking back more recently and just thinking of like, wow, I'm going to think of like college as a phase of my life. Right now it's life, but at some point it's just going to be a phase of my life. And so I'm really trying to make the most of it. So I don't know. Hope this episode is helpful in some way. I'm going to drop that other episode in the next 10 hours, hopefully. Going to get some Z's first. But thank you so much for listening. Definitely check out the podcast for more self-care content and stuff like that. Follow it on YouTube, Instagram, at Yield Today of Dallin. Canland podcast, should be able to find it. Definitely follow it on Instagram at Yield Today of Dallin podcast. Love to hear your thoughts, and I'm sharing more clips there. Finally got out of that hole. We're making lots of little changes, so one good change leads to one. Never underestimate how big of a change and all the little changes that one change can lead to. With that all said, thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to yield today. It'll be a better tomorrow.